I am back with the exclusive content. If you guys have checked out the podcast, thank you. If you haven't, go check it out. This is just a little bit, this is just a tip of the iceberg of great content that we put out on this episode. I got my main man, Chris Rosvoglou, with me, and we're here to talk about, let's just start off with the Michael Thomas question. You had a take, and I listened to your last podcast, and this is where I heard it, that the Saints should limit or sit out Michael Thomas for this Week 7 matchup versus the Seattle Seahawks. And I just want you to talk about that a little bit because I have my own opinion about it as well.
Yeah, so after week 5, I was like, talking about Michael Thomas's return. And obviously, Michael Thomas's return is going to change a lot for the Saints, and it's going to give them the weapon in the passing attack that they need. They need badly. And at first, I kind of thought to myself, ease him in. Maybe don't even play him week 7 because my worry is playing 2 games in a 6-day span for a guy who has not played since January. Like, that's my concern. Is it too much on the ankle? And then now I think back to it, if he is, and I had to revisit it, if Michael Thomas is 100% healthy, they're saying he's good to go, he's fully cleared, I would play him in week 7, but I would kind of go to that second part of my original take where I would limit him. And the reason being, as much fun it would be to see him on, Monday night against a really bad Seahawks secondary just going wild on them, I think that at the same time the Saints have to be cautious. It's a long game, and I think it's more important to have Michael Thomas for these divisional battles when you play like a Tampa Bay or you play a Carolina later in the year, which they added a bunch of weapons to their secondary, so that should be a fun matchup, then, put all your eggs in one basket against a Seahawks secondary that, honestly, I don't know if they're going to be able to cover Marquez Callaway and Kenny Stills and Deontay Harris. Like, that's how bad Seattle's secondary has been this year. So as much as I would love to see Michael Thomas just have the game of his life on Monday night in a return that kind of is that, that I'm back kind of moment, I think that the Saints, for them, limit him almost like they did last year Sunday Night Football against the Bucs on the road, where I think he had a couple of catches for about 50 to 60 yards. I think that would be a great game for him in his first game there. Let Jameis get comfortable with him, especially on crucial passing downs, whether it's a 3rd and 7 or a 3rd and 9, whatever it might be. And then Halloween, 6 days later, let's open things up against another weak secondary right now because, man, anyone watching the NFC South knows the Buccaneers are just getting beat up in the secondary with injuries this year, whether it's Winfield or even Carlton Davis or Sean Murphy-Bunting. That is another game where you could open it up a weaker secondary. So I say play him week 7 if he's ready, but limit his snaps. This way, week 8, you play the Bucs, another weak secondary. That's where you open it up, let Michael Thomas make, in other words, his triumphant return.
Man, he better be ready. Because even if he got this at July, the beginning of July, that's 15 weeks for an injury that's supposed to take 12. So the reason I say I want him to go full go is because he's seemingly nearly a month past the expected dates that he should be ready. And Curtis Johnson was on there saying that he looked ready last week. So I guess 2 weeks prior to the game that will be. And I look at it and I say, man, look, you put him on the PUP list. The mental side of if you feel like he was rushed back, if that's what his gripe was in those behind the scenes meetings that inevitably had to follow the tweets that he put out and the tweets that he liked. If that was the problem, put him on the PUP list. You're not rushing him back. He's been well past that time, and it's 6 days, so it's 1 day less than a regular week. But it's not like a Sunday to Thursday situation. If it was Sunday to Thursday where 2 games within 5 days, then I would be more on the limit or hold him out. But I think he's had enough time off. I think he's had 15 weeks. That's 3.5 months, almost 4 months, really. So when I look at it, I say, man, let him ride. Let him go, man. Let him play. And if it does result in him getting a couple of targets to warm up and it's just easing them in, so be it. But my plan is to go full force, depending on what you see from him in practice.
Yeah, I think that it all comes down to kind of like what you said. Look, Curtis Johnson said he's like ready to go. Like if he didn't know that he was on the physically unable to perform list and couldn't actually play, he'd be like, all right, they're ready to suit up. And that sounds great and all, but I just have my concerns that I'm worried that, what if they do go 100% on Monday, 100% 6 days later on Sunday, and all of a sudden it's week, I believe, 9, And then you're like, all right, his ankle's a little sore. And then all of a sudden this issue lingers. That's my only concern. I think, look, at the end of the day, if someone's going to get hurt, it's almost like, you know what, they're probably going to end up getting hurt, and you just can't, avoid whatever fate or destiny it might be. But I think for the Saints, especially on a game against Seattle that they're probably not having Russell Wilson, and their secondary and defense as a whole is just bad, and you could gash them in the running game, I would kind of maybe just limit his snaps a little bit. That doesn't mean play him 40%, but 65, 70, just not as much as you would on a game where it means a lot. Not that, Monday night against the Seahawks doesn't mean a lot, but I think for the Saints, I would be really concerned about what if that ankle swells and it's week 8, week 9, week 10, and we're starting to go back into the situation we were last year. That would be a doomsday scenario for them.
It would be, and my answer would be sit him down. Don't have the same situation you had last year where he feels slighted, because I want Michael Thomas on his team. But one thing I think that was able to help the Saints was in the Tampa Bay game, they were blowing him out. They could afford to sit him down. They didn't have to really compete because the game was won very early. Now, Geno Smith looked decent against Los Angeles. Now, they didn't plan for him, and that definitely had a part in it. But if for whatever reason you're in a good game with the Seahawks, then I think you have to take those shackles off. But if you're fortunate enough to be blowing them out, then yeah, you can limit him because you don't need to risk him in that situation.
Yeah, 1,000%. I think, like you said, the game, the scoreboard, I know people don't want to hear that, but the scoreboard dictates a lot about what a team does. Like if the Saints are up and you really want to see Jameis air it out, I don't think it's going to happen. Just like if the score is going in the Saints' direction, which we obviously hope it is, and it's, let's say, 24-13 or 24-10, whatever it might be, let's say, I don't know if that's the time to really bring Michael Thomas out and go full throttle. Now, if you need a drive to kind of end it, yeah, you can absolutely bet Michael Thomas should and will be in there on third down. And I think that's the right call. I think for the Saints, it's a give and take. I think it's kind of a feel-out process, and it also comes down to Mike. Mike needs to be transparent with the Saints about how his ankle feels after every drive, after every snap. They can't mess around with this. They need him, and he also needs them, because even if Mike, let's say, wants out, he's got to ball out for other teams to be like, yeah, he's 2019 Mike, not 2020 Mike, and that's a big factor. So I expect to be highly motivated. It's just important for these two sides. The Saints and Michael Thomas, after not having good communication for a couple months, they got to be clear and honest with each other.
100%. None of that tough guy stuff. So let's get into the rookie class. I'm going to make it rather quick. I do want to hear what you have to say about a particular player, though. For me, Peyton Turner's come out really strong, but then he kind of sizzled a bit. Could be because he's getting a lot of double teams, like we said on the previous pod, or on the podcast, I should say. He's gotten a lot of doubles. The highest rate of doubles of any other defensive end in the league. But when Davenport comes back, he'll probably be under a 4-man rotation. It'll probably be Davenport, Cam, Passanio. Not him and Turner and Granderson will be splitting time with whoever gets that 4/5 guy. Personally, I think it might be good for him, help him develop a little bit, help him see some. I like him, though. I like what I've seen. Pete Werner, Paulson, and Debo, they've really impressed me. Like I said, the one guy I want you to talk about is going to be Werner, because you're a Big Ten guy. You're more up north. I'm an SEC guy. That's what we watch out here. But, you being in New York, you're heavy on the Big Ten landscape. So I would love to see what you saw from him, because I didn't know much about him. But Paulson Adebo, he's a hometown guy. My hometown, not New Orleans, but my hometown. So I've been really impressed with his resilience and his ability to bounce back in that Panthers game. I thought his ability to stay confident in that New England game. And though he was really bad against New York, and I won't make excuses for it, he came out and played like that never happened this week against Washington. And I think his resilience, which was my theme of the week, you can check out that podcast. His resilience really told me a lot, and it tells me that this guy is here to stay. He has the talent, and he has the mindset to really play. And I'll let you go crazy on Werner the same way I kind of went crazy about Adebo and my love for him, because I wanted them to draft him.
Yeah, I think, there's a beauty to it that, I know Saints fans want a little bit more of Peyton Turner, but I've seen enough to say that I'm encouraged. I think Paulson Adebo has been obviously the class of the, ironically enough, 2021 class. He's been that good. He has been, for the exception of that game against the Giants, he's been really consistent. And even the Panthers game, he had some bad moments, but it's not like he played bad. it was DJ Moore just making a really good contested catch. Like, and you know what? At that point, you just got to tip your cap to the opposing player. So
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah, absolutely.
You said something, and I don't want to forget it. I want to get right to it. He is the class of the class of 2021. Is that because Pete Werner has not played the whole season? Or is it just simply you think that Paulson Adebo has been better than Pete Werner, number of games aside?
I think that's a fantastic question. I think it's a two-parter. I think that the Saints needed a second corner way more than they needed a second linebacker, only because, and man, they needed a second linebacker, only because the Saints have been able throughout the years to piece together whoever the guy is next to Demario Davis. And it might not be pretty, but sometimes it works for a couple of games. That second corner spot, if you don't have an answer, and the Saints were fortunate last year to have Janoris Jenkins, they'd be scrambling for a Ken Crawley or a P.J. Williams or a Desmond Trufant. So, like, to have Paulson Adebo come in and kind of take over that spot, but not only take over that spot and fend off Bradley Roby at a harder position to play in terms of adjustment, I'm still going to give it to Paulson Adebo, and that does not mean that Pete Werner can't surpass him. I just think that Paulson Adebo really has been special. You're talking about that pick against Washington at the goal line, a pick against Aaron Rodgers in the red zone. Kid just makes timely plays, and if he was just thinking heads up against the Giants, he could have actually recovered a fumble in the end zone after John Ross lost the football, which would have been a game changer. So I think that Adebo is playing a harder position to adjust to the NFL speed. He didn't even play last year, which makes it all the more impressive. So I think for me, I would still go Adebo, but man, I do think Pete Werner's going to make a push.
Okay. I think so as well. I think that mostly because he plays a harder position, but it's tough. They're really pushing. If we're just taking out the amount of games and we're taking out the value of the position, Pete Werner versus Paulson Adebo, who would I give it to? Who's been better? I think Peyton Turner. I think Pete Werner has made more impactful plays, but at the same time, he's more in the mix every single down because he's a linebacker. He's always going to be there. I've seen him take away guys, but I'm going to go with Paulson Adebo. Just because he's forced 2 turnovers. He has limited yak for the most part. And if you take out that one game, he's played really, really well. But that's a competition right there. Pete Werner, I'm going to ask Twitter that. Who's been better? Now you ask Twitter that because you got more followers, man. You gonna get more responses.
Hey, so, if you want, you put it up. I'll retweet that thing ASAP.
Nah, for sure. I want to see Peyton Turner or Pete Werner. Excuse me, not Peyton Turner. Why I keep want to put Peyton Turner in there? He just showed up so good his first game. But Paulson Adebo or Pete Werner, who has been better? I'll put that up there. Let us know in the comments below, man. This has been somewhat of a South exclusives. You know, this is content you're not going to catch on the podcast. It's just content that, hey, we have more to say. Podcast went 50 minutes. We still have more to say. So we came on here. We came on here to talk about that. So let us know your thoughts on Michael Thomas. Let us know your thoughts on who has been the best rookie and what you've seen from the guys. It doesn't have to just be number 1, but 2 and 3. Let us know, man. Anything else you want to say to the people, Chris?
I would say this, you know, because you brought up a really fun debate about the rookie class. As much as the Saints fans, including myself, bash the 2020 draft class, and a little bit rightfully so, honestly speaking.
Yeah.
I think that when this season's all said and done, we're going to look back and say the Saints were able to get a starter at all 3 levels of the defense in one draft class, and that could change things for years to come. It really can. So I would be really excited if you know, you Saints fans, you watch Paulson Adebo, Pete Werner, and Peyton Turner on a weekly basis. You want to see growth, and you want to see, just like Paulson Adebo did in Week 5, you want to see when they get hit with adversity, how do they respond? So far, all of them are doing a really good job with it, and I just got to tip my cap. I think it's been a pleasure seeing what these 3 young guys can do on defense.
100%. The Saints only draft good under Jeff Ireland in odd years, 2017, 2019, and now 2021. Say what you want. 2020 seems like a dud, and 2018 just cannot stay healthy. So maybe it's the odd years. I hope it's not, because I would like to draft good next year too. But just throw that little tidbit out there for you guys. But yep, it's been Darrion Gray, the Mouth of the South. My guy, Chris Rosvoglou. Make sure you check him out. Straight Up Saints podcast. Great content. Check me out. Check him out. Show everybody love in Saints Twitter, man. I appreciate y'all coming on here with the South exclusives.